put forward.
Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to catch your eye in this debate, and I'd like to start by congratulating the member from Blaenau Gwent for tabling new clause 10. He should receive much of the credit for this amendment. This amendment has an extremely simple intent in laying a duty on the FCA to report to Parliament on A, the adequacy and appropriateness of the FCA's use of its regulatory powers, B, the measures the FCA has taken to protect vulnerable customers, including pensioners, people with disabilities and people receiving forms of income support, and finally, and most importantly, the FCA's receptiveness to the recommendations of the Consumer Panel. I will now, Madam Deputy Speaker, say why, particularly Part C of that amendment, is so important. The honourable member has explained clearly why the FCA should regularly report to Parliament, and in my role as Deputy Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, I have constantly urged for openness and transparency wherever possible, so that our constituents can make full and proper judgments on the actions or lack of them by regulators such as the FCA. And I've given the House an example, as the honourable member has. The PAC inquiry that we held in April and June of this year highlighted the plight of some 2,000 of the 7,700 British Steel pensioners who in 2019 suffered significant financial shortfalls because of the wrong advice given by a significant number of independent financial advisors who advise pensioners to opt out of their valuable defined benefit pension schemes. To add further insult to injury, the actions by the regulator caused a number of IFAs, companies, to go out of business or merge with others, and therefore the compensation that pensioners received rightly was capped. I know this is a complicated subject, but both the honourable member and myself are using it as an egregious example of why the FCA needs to be more accountable to Parliament and to our constituent. This amendment stems from recommendation 5 in the PAC report entitled Investigation into British Steel Pension Scheme, published on the 21st of July, and I quote our recommendation. The FCA should be more proactive and consumer-focused in its engagement with stakeholders. It should have a better mechanism for responding to consumer harms and collect more evidence on a regular basis to pick up on issues that are being raised, especially from emerging risks in financial markets. The FCA must also review how effective the Financial Services Consumer Panel is at consumer protection and how it influences policy debates with the FCA from a consumer angle. Now, the honourable member and I have had discussions with the Economic Secretary on the front bench today, and I believe he has sympathy, certainly with the principle that the FCA needs to be much more accountable. And if that's the case, I very much hope he will concede the principle of this amendment and incorporate it as a government amendment in the other place. I don't think either the honourable member for Blaenau Gwent or myself wishes to be prescriptive about how or when this reporting should take place to Parliament, and it is a matter for the government. No financial institution will ultimately exist without its consumers. The whole point of the FCA as a regulatory authority is to protect their interest. Rather than having to work through long and complicated reports, there needs to be a clear, easily available information on what regulators are doing or not doing on their behalf. All of this requires a fundamental shift by the regulator, the FCA, attitude to consumer, to engage when things go wrong than they do currently. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, as I've got just a second or two, I'd just like to comment on the fraud aspects of this bill. We, the PAC, did a recent inquiry on fraud, and we discovered that 41% of all reported crime in June was accounted for by fraud, up from 30% in 2017. Yet only 1%, just 1% of police resources are being devoted to fraud crimes. So we urgently need to see the government's new comprehensive fraud strategy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Stella Creasy.